This is a video on one of the basics of writing and editing, spotting the subject, and also the verb and object of a sentence. Here are the basic goals. Introduce you really briefly to why recognizing SVO is useful. Review the basics of sentence structure and how to spot the subject and verb, and prepare you for more specific lessons in punctuating sentences to avoid run-on sentences and sentence fragments. This is basic, but it's crucial. Punctuation and subject-verb agreement give a lot of us fits. We have a hard time remembering the rules. We have a hard time seeing problems in sentences. Subjects and verbs have to agree in number, and we screw that up when we lose track of SVO. We need to know whether we have a clause or a phrase so we can punctuate clearly. If we mess that up, we wind up with awkward run-on sentences and sentence fragments, and let's not do that. The point of good punctuation is clarity and making sentences easy to read. Grammatical rules help us do that, and they're not just little gotcha points, they're useful tools. Before you can effectively tackle fragments and run-ons and where to put commas and where not to put them, you need to know a fundamental thing about writing clear sentences. You have to have a good handle on the subject, the verb, and the object. So let's start there because the easiest sentences to read come in the form of subject, verb, object. Again, a noun does something to another noun. Give this sentence a read. It has a subject, verb, object structure with a couple of other wrinkles, but let's stick to the SVO part of the equation. The subject is usually a noun, in this case, votes. You can also say that those votes, as a phrase, is the subject. Subject comes right up front at the start of the sentence. It's followed immediately by a simple active verb, infuriated. The object, which is a direct object, is a little more complicated, but no big deal. Think of it this way. The action of the verb infuriated happened to members of Congress. Those votes infuriated members of Congress and their constituents. It's a two-part object. The added information thrown in that the infuriated lawmakers were from the Northeast, and an aside of both parties set off in commas. Pretty simple sentence, though, otherwise. Give a quick read to another sentence from the same story. It looks tougher, but it's not. So what's the subject? Well, the subject is package, or you could include the entire phrase with words modifying package, Tuesday's Sandy Aid package, but the base noun of the subject is package. Now, for example, is an aside set off in commas in between the subject and verb. The verb is included, and the direct object is $12 billion, or roughly $12 billion. The main editing issue is to have an intuitive feel for the subject and verb, because they have to agree in number. Sentences are harder to understand when they start with something before the subject. Usually, that's a phrase with a preposition or participle. Prepositions are words such as of, in, to, with, and then it goes on for a long list. Participles are verb parts that either end in ing or end in ed. I'm not going to go into the grammar here in a big way other than to point them out. Prepositional and participial phrases bury the subject deeper into the sentence, and we need to dig out the subject so we can make everything agree. This sentence has a short prepositional phrase at the start. Take a look at it. So after 2004 to 2011, the sentence has a quick little aside set off in commas. And then eventually the subject of the sentence, Kansas, comes along. How do we know the subject is Kansas and not the Government Accountability Office or the years? Because Kansas is what took And took is our verb. And what did Kansas take? The object. And the object is direct. It's $1.2 billion. After that, we have some more information about the money and a couple of quick phrases. And what kind of phrases are those? Well, they're prepositional phrases. But the subject, verb, and direct object hold things together. Kansas took more than $1.2 billion. Remember, being able to spot the subject and verb is the whole object of this little exercise, and it's all about producing correct and clear copy.